Hey everyone, it's Ian. I'm back again with another featured extras segment in which we celebrate the physical media special features of brand new releases. Now, we're looking back at 1990's Darkman today, courtesy of Shout Factory slash Scream Factory, which just came out with a stunning 4K edition, which you can pick up now. Let me get it in the shot. Always have trouble with that for some reason. And we also, it's a double feature, an embarrassment of riches here on the show today, because we're also talking about your favorite movie and mine of last year, AQUAMAN and the Lost Kingdom. Now, I know this movie got a lot of crap when it came out last year, but on the Kicking the Seat Earth's Mightiest Critic Roundtable review, if you'll recall, I defended the film. I thought it was a lot of fun, and as kind of death throes of the DC Comics universe goes, that and the Flash were off the wall, goofy, kind of insane pictures that had lots of problems, but were also, I think, very enjoyable, precisely for the fact that they broke the mold of some of the more dour, serious and muddy entries in the Zack Snyder DC universe for sure. But we're not here to relitigate those films necessarily. We're going to talk about the special features on the 4K editions of both movies. Now, let's start with Darkman. Once again, here it is. Sam Raimi, 1990, his first big swing at a studio feature, following The Evil Dead and Evil Dead Part 2. And this was long before he made Army of Darkness or certainly Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, the movie that turned me off of comic book movies. So yeah, this is the year after Batman came out. There was a lot of hype around this movie. I remember the ad campaign when I was 13. I was so excited to see it, and I watched it, and this was before I really knew who or what Sam Raimi was in terms of his filmmaking style, so I wasn't quite prepared. But in revisiting the film recently, thanks to this release, I gained a new appreciation for it. And I also discussed it with Earth's Mightiest Critics last week on a live stream. I'm going to link both of those shows down below so you can catch up and get my opinions on the films proper. But in terms of the bonus features, the Shout Factory has basically done a high definition reissue of a previous Blu-ray that they did. A lot of the features ported over, but of course you get the brand new high definition sound and picture quality, which we all know and love. Great job on the transfer. But as far as the extras go, there's a fan commentary, which is new. But the real reason to buy this disc and the reason to support Shout Factory and not just wait for some thief to upload all the deleted scenes to YouTube so you can watch them is, I've already spoiled it, to watch the deleted scenes on this disc. There are 34 of them, adding up to about 37 minutes of content. Now, some of them are, barely even deleted scenes. They're more like inserts. You can see Liam Neeson eating a sandwich, talking to a lab partner. You can see Darkman wielding a shopping cart into his, rundown industrial laboratory. Not great stuff, but two things that really stand out. Okay, technically three. One, you can see the main villain, Strack. There's a scene where he rolls around in bed completely naked, in a sheets made of gold coins, and he gets up to answer a phone call, and you can see him in all of his glory. It's a very odd scene. I can't even imagine the context in which this would have fit into the rest of Darkman, but there it is. Next, there is an entire subplot that was removed involving our main real estate developer villain's father. Now, I don't even remember if his character was mentioned in the theatrical cut, but you can see through several scenes in this movie, he's a very rich and powerful and, quite frankly, very sexist old man who is involved, much like his son, in corrupt real estate dealings. And Julie, played by Frances McDormand, ends up trying to get into, become part of his council and arrange a deal. And she encounters some I don't want a woman lawyer representing me, or that kind of stuff. It's the kind of stuff that you would expect to see for the time. But what is truly wonderful about one scene in particular involving a business luncheon is the Julie character, who in the theatrical cut is seen as this upright, kind of virtuous character who you could understand why she was, going to possibly be married to Peyton Westlake, the Liam Neeson character who became Darkman. He loved her for many reasons, one of which is because she was a good person, a forthright, upstanding citizen. What we see in these deleted scenes is sort of a different take on the character. She's still one of the heroes of the film, but she is willing to get a little down and dirty to play that gray side of the law in order to get what she wants. A fascinating take. I was very surprised by what I saw in the scene, so I'm not going to spoil anything more of it, but definitely check it out. But the next, I guess, big surprise is a completely omitted subplot or even an alternate plot involving Ted Raimi's character. In the theatrical cut, he's just a henchman, and he's the guy who famously gets popped up from the street, from the sewer grate, and the cars run over him and everything. But in the deleted scenes, we paint a picture of a man who Darkman loves to taunt and haunt and psychologically torture. It kind of promises a very different movie, very much of a horror movie kind of element. Now, there are elements of horror in Darkman, but these scenes, even though you've got some of the gonzo camera angles and weird things going on, it is straight up kind of scary, and would a very interesting take. There's also a scene. I believe there's versions of this in the film, but kind of journeys into Darkman's mind. But there's a great kind of assembly montage of psychedelic, surreal imagery, flashbacks to the accident, not the accident, but the violence that transformed him into Darkman, his nemesis, and all that stuff, kind of put together, very rough, very VHS looking kind of assembly footage, as I mentioned, but fascinating nonetheless. You get a feeling watching the deleted scenes that Darkman could have been a straightforward, dark, very harsh R-rated film, instead of a softer version of that, involving a lot of the Sam Raimi-isms. So yeah, definitely recommend picking up Darkman on 4K for those reasons. Next up, we have Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, yeah, again, not the most critically well-liked movie of 2023. And when it came out, people consider it to be a failure. Certainly, critically, audiences didn't necessarily seem to respond to it. However, it did make a ton at the worldwide box office. One of those things that kind of came out, disappeared, but then crept along and got bigger and bigger. So yeah, I think it's officially a hit. And Warner Brothers, much like The Flash, another movie that was in some cases rightfully derided last year, but another one that I happen to love, Warner Brothers really went out and put some great special features onto this 4K release. A lot of it is chopped up into little featurettes, which run from a couple minutes to, it seemed like, a half hour. I didn't time them exactly, but they seem to go on for quite a while. And they really get into the production of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Now, there is a perception, one that have fallen prey to, honestly, watching a lot of these comic book blockbusters and big branded sci-fi films, that they're all just big CGI messes, and it's just clicking a bunch of buttons and bam, you've rendered out your characters in these action scenes that are long and incomprehensible, much like this review. But no, what you really get the feeling for in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, the special features, is James Wan, the director, and Bill Brzezinski. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, and if not, I'm sorry for butchering it, but he's the production designer. James Wan's vision for how this sequel is going to look, how it's going to be bigger and more expansive than the first Aquaman film, and then Brzezinski's mission was to help realize that. And across all the different creative departments working on this film, we get a great sense during the 118-day shoot that spanned London, Antarctica, Hawaii, all these practical locations, building practical sets out of nothing, and the prop work, the costuming, everything was very elaborate and very involved. You do get the feel for all the artisans working very hard to bring this world of Aquaman to life. Something that hit particularly close to home for me was when Brzezinski was talking about designing the kind of haunted-looking forest that led up to the underground city of Necris, and how that was inspired by the Hammer films of the 60s and 70s, which, if you follow this channel, you know that I've been watching those obsessively for years and talking about them on the Hammerland series and the various variations of that series. Anyhow, So yeah, that struck me, and you don't really, or I didn't really pick up on that watching the movie because there's a lot going on. But when watching these behind the scenes featurettes, it really does give you the chance to step back and look at the picture from a completely different vantage point. So I got to actually see people walking through the sets and acting and putting things together, so I could really appreciate what I was looking at versus sitting in a theater and like, oh, there's a dark forest with trees and there's fighting going on. There's a lot of those opportunities watching these extra features, which are cut up into various segments, focusing on production design, certain characters, certain themes. Even Topo, the octopus, gets his own featurette, which is kind of cute. What both of these films that we're talking about today, Darkman and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, have in common, especially in terms of the features that are on the discs, is that much like the old days of DVDs with audio commentaries and behind the scenes stuff, which we don't see a whole lot of anymore, unless the big studios or the boutique studios are willing to put in the effort and the time to put these things on discs, is that it was film school for an entire generation of filmmakers and creatives who wanted to learn about the process, learn what it takes to make a movie. And when you've got someone like James Wan and Sam Raimi, who both came from the world of independent horror, suddenly playing in these giant sandboxes that are in genres that are frankly outside of, not outside their fascination, because I know Sam Raimi grew up reading comic books and James Wan loved horror films and genre, but to tackle the world of superheroes, whether they're branded like Aquaman or kind of the answer to branded superheroes like Darkman was, you get a real sense of what it takes to step into those shoes and how to turn the indie filmmaking sensibilities into something that is how to scale that up, essentially going from $50,000 to $250 million. I should mention also that in some of the archival interviews in the Darkman disc, Raimi, from 34 years ago, I mean, he had a baby face, for crying out loud, as did Frances McDormand and Liam Neeson, seeing them all young and talking passionately about the work. But Raimi talks about the transition from independent filmmaker to big Hollywood filmmaker. In this half-hour interview, which is another featured extra on the disc, he was still in the middle of making Darkman, so it's very interesting to get that perspective. I guess that's another set of bonus features to check out on Darkman. But yeah, with Aquaman, you have to look a little bit to put the pieces together, because these are all chopped up into, like I said, varying lengths of featurettes and things. Whereas with Darkman, there's a lot of features, but they tend to be very long and in depth. But yeah, both very much worth picking up, especially if, like I said, you love filmmaking and finding out what it takes to put one of these things together. And also if you're fascinated by the idea of genre filmmakers working kind of like on a small scale, stepping into the big leagues. Both very good stuff. High recommendations for both of them. I know this is kind of a controversial opinion, especially when it comes to Aquaman. Some people love it, some people hate it. I happen to really enjoy the film, and getting a glimpse behind the scenes and seeing what people were thinking about inputting it together just grew my appreciation that much more. So yeah, find them at fine retailers wherever you go or wherever you get your movies. And yeah, if you've seen these featured extras, if you've seen these featured extras that I'm talking about, let me know what you think down below. Am I crazy? Are we simpatico? I want to know. And if you haven't, let me know if you're planning to pick them up or if I've persuaded you at all. And if not, well, I'm sorry, but I've said my piece. I was really excited to watch both of these, and more excited after it was over because of what I'd learned in terms of not only the movies, but the connection between these two very odd films that are separated by about 23 years. So I'm going to go and get back to more, film appreciating. And yeah, thank you very much for watching Kicking the Seat. If you haven't liked and subscribed and rung the bell for notifications, please do that and join us back here next time, whenever that is, whatever that is. Thanks and take care.